and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker, and we are here to look at teas because they're like you are like me. You are probably battling the bitterness. You are attacking astringency. You are looking for those good quality teas. You're trying to dodge the bullet and get away from those bad ones. And that's what we're going to expose. We're going to expose the good. We're going to praise them. We're going to bring out those bad ones and challenge those tea owners out there, the tea retailers out there as well, to bring us better quality and give us better selection. So to do that, we're going to be looking at a green tea today. It's a Chinese green. It is a dragon well tea, otherwise known as a Longjing or Longqing. Several different variations of the pronunciation. But this tea was harvested in the springtime, and we're going to get a chance to look at to see if it's worth your money or not. So let's go ahead and go through our tea tasting process. We've got our basic equipment, we've got our kettle, our gaiwan. I like the gaiwan because it's standard, it's repeatable, easily repeated with several teas if you need to compare, and it's great if you need to do a bunch of multiple steepings. So I got my regular old teaspoon here, and I'm going to get out a scoop, and that's going to be about enough to cover that teaspoon if you spread it out. Put that in, and that's not really covering the bottom of my gaiwan yet. This is about a 4-ounce gaiwan. So I'm going to take another 3/4 to another full scoop there, toss that in, and that's going to really cover the bottom of a gaiwan so that it's a good consistent covering there. Our water's been brought to a boil, and or the early boil, starting to rumble. Not really a good rolling boil yet, and it's been cooling here for about 30-40 seconds now. So we'll be able to put enough water in there. The leaves are swirling around, getting them circulated. We've got enough water here, actually. Let me add just a bit more. There we are. Because what we want is, so that when we put our lid on, a little bit of water actually sits above the lid, creating a seal. Okay. Otherwise, oxidation, the air will react to the water, change the color of that liquor just a little bit. Now, I don't want to leave that in there very long. I want to get a good brief flash steeping, and you may have just heard that the heat's building up in there, increasing the pressure and causing the lid to rattle just a little bit. But let me kind of keep an eye on that. Get out my pitcher here. I like the use of the pitcher because especially you can look at the liquor better. It's a nice, convenient way to smell the liquor as well. And if you're serving more than one person, if you're doing a tasting with a friend or a family member, this allows you to pour more smoothly across different cups. So, I'm actually very tempted to go ahead and steep this, or pour this rather, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to really get a good, thorough steeping out of it, see what happens when you really test this tea, put it under some stress. This is GrandTea's. Let's go ahead and talk about this for just a moment. This is GrandTea's YunQiSupreme Dragon Well. It is available on GrandTea's website. GrandTea is based in China, so they're right there. They're in country, or I believe Hong Kong. Perhaps Hong Kong. So they're in country. They have access to a lot of selection in Chinese teas. I find that Chinese teas are GrandTea's strengths. This particular tea, the Supreme Dragon Well, 25 grams for $7.90. All right, now I've waited long enough. Can't do this anymore. I'm going to go ahead and get this tea out and pour it, and you can watch along here as I pour. What I'm doing is I'm going to grab my my bowl here by my index finger and thumb, lightly on the edge, on the rim here. That's where the least amount of heat is. Holding the lid on with my index finger and pouring just like so. And that right there should work. I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. I'm going to keep the lid on there for just a few minutes because I do want to talk about the wet leaf in just a moment. But first, let's go ahead and talk about our dry leaf. Okay, let me get a good smell here first. It smells right now first thing that came to mind, or first things that came to mind rather, roasted peanut, no salt, no honey, just plain, no shell, just plain old, no husk, just bland kind of peanut taste smell. I'll combine with that a little bit of wax bean, freshly picked, like a freshly picked type of string bean, wax bean, that type of green bean smell. I would say that I've come to recognize a kind of almost like a Thai or a fragrant rice type of smell that's associated with other dragon wells that I appreciate and enjoy. Just was last week or the week before, we did look at a high-scoring dragon well, which did have more of that ricey type note. But moving on, talk a little bit about the color of this dry leaf as well. This one's actually a pretty vibrant, but it's bright. It's more on the yellow green. It's not a deep, rich green. It's not by no means old looking. It's a newish kind of a pale green, like a more tender leaf, earlier harvest type aspect to it. You are getting some down, like little clumps of down here and there. You're seeing a general fuzz on some, but you're also seeing places on leaves where the down just kind of collected, bunched up. And you are getting a lot of the kind of two-leaf and a bud type shapes, formations here. And the way that they're pressed flat, they do have that kind of grasshopper wing shape about them as well. So leaf shape and size is fairly characteristic. Color, just okay. It's not a tender looking green, it's more of a yellow looking green, even though we do expect a little bit of paleness to come off of this. So let's go ahead then. That's our dry leaf. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our wet here. To get really into our wet, of course, we're going to smell. We're going to look at the leaf as it's been steeped. So talk about that. All right, now the wet leaf is starting to really present some of those aromas that I was expecting. It does have more of that richer type of cooked rice, steamed rice kind of notes to it, combined with a very light green type of fragrance, like it's more like a sweet pea type of smell, like a lightly steamed sweet pea. So it is a green type of sweetness to it. Lovely, actually. Let me go ahead and clear off some of these that have stuck to the lid, because what I want to do is dig around and get out some of these leaves to talk about what's in here. What we do have is like leaf and bud sets. Here's a leaf and a bud, and these are around half an inch, 3/4 of an inch in size and length there. Here's another two leaf and a bud, with possibly a little bit, another leaf about to open up or spread out from that bud area. The leaves here, this one, I'm not going to hold this one against, but I am going to say this one does have a little bit of little specks of red there, indicating either something attacked the leaf or there's a little bit of oxidation that took place. Let's go ahead and pull out a few others and just compare that. Here's a very tender young individual leaf. Again, these are a bit lighter on the yellowish side. Okay, but overall, aroma is there. These do look like good tender leaves as well and tips that we talked about. No, not a lot of reddish type of tips or indications of oxidation taking place on any of these other leaves, so that was just probably the exception to the rule. Now, let us move on and quickly talk about our liquor here. So let's give that a swirl here for just a moment. Pale in color, which the younger, the earlier the harvest, you tend to get a lighter color because these are more delicate leaves. They have not put out as much chlorophyll. They are the newer and still developing type of leaf. Smell is pretty light right now. Just a little bit of a, it's almost a light buttery type of note there. Almost as if you had lightly buttered corn. That's the case. So you do have a little of that corn type of sweetness, a little of that buttery type note there. Or if you had boiled your corn in water, that way you get a little bit of the water smell. You may argue water doesn't have smell. So a lot of waters do have a smell, or at least a feel in the nose. Combined with a little bit of the sweetness of the corn, combined with a little bit of the butter that you would put in that water. So let's give it a taste now. I'm going to slurp quite a bit, get a lot of air in there to unlock flavors. Okay, first off, I did detect a kind of, it was a nice, very lightly astringent, yet smooth coating on the mouth. That was one of the first things that hit me. It was a fresh, raw, wax bean type of feel on the mouth there. Okay. Again, it's a very light type of vegetable. Less of that rice that is sometimes an element or component of Dragon Well. Again, light, delicate. This was the first steeping. I suspect that a second steeping would bring out just a bit more of the vegetable type note. Astringency is low. Okay, this is not something that you're going to say is overly bitter, or astringent rather. Bitterness, again, no, to really go into that. Aftertaste still lingers a little bit of a light, powdery, dry type of feeling. Not something that's really off-putting, but gives that feeling that like I said, I've eaten a raw vegetable, a raw bean, green bean, a raw wax bean. Summertime, it's a great time to go out if you want to experience that for yourself. Go out and go out to the farmer's market, your garden, wherever. Pick up a few of those, chew on a little bit. Great taste experience there. And that's what you're getting here. This is, I would say, fairly characteristic of a very early, delicate, tender, like I said, early harvest Dragon Well. So I'm going to give this tea a score of, I'm going to also give this a 92. Why? Because it does have, we looked at those dry leaves. There was the indication that these were young. They were light in their fragrance and their color. That carried on. We did release some of the rice type notes, or the steamed rice type of note in the wet leaf, so it is coming out. An earlier harvest like this one is, you expect lighter tones as far as the liquor as well. Now for some people, well, and lighter, I should say, also lighter in the fact that there's going to be low astringency, really, and no bitterness to speak of. But that also means it's going to have a lighter flavor component, which some people come to expect a stronger, more pronounced. Depending on your diet, if you've got a lot of artificial components in your diet, this is going to seem weak to you. If you've been able to enhance and build up your taste for those things that are natural, the taste of this will come more, will be more appreciated by you. It will come out more for you. So your diet has a part to play in this. So that's why we give this tea I give this tea a 92. It's excellent if you're ready for it. So again, we talked about finding those teas that were getting away from the bad, going towards the good quality, getting away from the bad. Here's where you are, moving towards the good for this one. Come back and join us, or rather join us next time, because we are going to be looking at a pu'er next time, talking about challenging or expanding your palate and your taste buds. This one will be one of those that you want to come back for here at Walker Tea Review.